Conference Committee report, and this is the Gunther motion. Conference Committee report on House File number 707, an act relating to state government appropriating money for the Outdoor Heritage Fund. The report is addressed to the Honorable Kurt L. Doudt, Speaker of the House, the Honorable Michelle L. Fischbach, President of the Senate. We, the undersigned conferees for House File number 707, report that we've agreed upon the items in dispute and recommend as follows. The report is signed by 4 of the 5 conferees on the part of the House and 5 of the 5 conferees on the part of the Senate. Gunther moves that the report of the Conference Committee on House File 707 be adopted and that the bill be repassed as amended by the Conference Committee.
Recognize the author, Representative Gunther, who will explain the report.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. The Legacy Committee will start out with Article 1, the Lessard-Sams, provides the Lessard-Sams with their full recommendations. One land acquisition project has money moved to the second year in order to preserve the 5% reserve. Include the language that the Lessard-Sams must consider recommending up to, remember I said consider, up to $15 million for CREP in the next year's recommendation. Article 2, Clean Water. We incorporate some updates, priorities from the Clean Water Council that were provided with the understanding that $22 million would be included for the buffer assistance to the soil and water conservation districts. Several projects are funded at the Clean Water Council's recommendation. Targeted wellhead protection protects drinking water by providing grants to areas where known action can improve water quality. $4 million in assistance to county for implementing the buffer law is removed. It is in the tax bill, I believe. Almost $20 million goes to projects eligible for CREP. This includes in this section. So we're going to have $20 million for the CREP in this section. About Article 3, Parks and Trails. Parks and Trails, the agreed upon 40-40-20 division between Met Council, DNR, and Greater Minnesota Regional Parks. We changed how the Met Council can allocate money, providing local units with Met Council's purview with the control over their money and how they want to spend it. In the past, the money was spent according to the Met Council Parks and Trails plan. Article 4, Arts and Cultural Heritage. Despite the Senate aversion to carve-outs within segments of this fund, we carved out $75,000 for the dam patch, for example. The horse in Savage, Minnesota, we got it down to a smaller version in Savage instead of the larger version in the state fair. The Andrew Peterson and Farm in Waconia for Representative Nash, the Miller Barn in Woodbury for Representative Fenton. Some projects were added, including $50,000 for Litchfield Opera House, Camp Legionville for $222,000 for programming. The Medal of Honor Memorial in Capitol will receive $250,000. We provide $50,000 for grants for the Midwest Outdoors Unlimited and other changes. The majority of our policy changes were removed. The no net gain and indirect cost language. And with that, before I yield to Representative Lilly, I would like to thank the conferees in the House, Representative Torkelson, Lilly, Fabian, and Representative Green. And I'd also like to add Mary Murphy, who was very, very helpful in making sure we did things right, and she gave me a lot of counsel. And she's always fun to work with. Staff, Callie Lehman was invaluable. And Jeremiah Winstead was always there when I needed him. Nonpartisan staff, Mary Mullen, Janelle Taylor, Brad Hagemeyer, and John Waltz. And I'd also like to thank the governor's staff who were always there, making sure we had as many of their recommendations that we could fund. And with that, I'd like to yield to Representative Lilly for a few words.
I recognize the member from Ramsey, Representative Lilly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and members. I'll probably get up at the end and speak again with the final passage, but I'd like to support Chair Gunther on adoption at this point. Thought he described the bill very thoroughly.
Discussion to the Conference Committee report. Member from Dakota, Representative Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would Representative Gunther yield to a question?
He will yield. Representative Hansen.
Mr. Speaker, Representative Gunther, when the bill left the floor, there were two provisions that passed here, and my understanding is they passed the other body as well. So they were identical in both bodies. One was for Emerald Ash Borer, and that passed on a bipartisan roll call vote, and the other was inflow infiltration that would go to individual homeowners, and that passed, I believe, with your approval. So could you explain to the body what happened to those provisions that were passed identically in both bodies?
Representative Gunther.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Hansen, Emerald Ash Borer was already in two places in the other committees, and the Senate thought that 3 would be just a little bit more, and it's my understanding that Lessard Sams, who originally funded money for Emerald Ash Borer, are strongly considering that for this next year. And as far as the other thing, we thought that the Senate didn't think that we had funding for that, and they decided not to fund it, and they won out. I'm not as tough as I thought I was.
Representative Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, it's discouraging that those provisions were dropped because the drop in the bucket that is in the LCCMR, I believe, only, and we don't know if we're going to have an LCCMR bill for Emerald Ash Borer, won't cover the hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars that are needed for this. So it's unfortunate when we have this much money. I'm hopeful that the council that has the annual opportunity would look at that, but on the clean water and the inflow infiltration as well, that's a large cost for many communities that cost increases the longer we don't take care of it.
The member from Hennepin, Representative Augenius.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The dollars in this conference committee report don't come even close to helping all the communities that need money to help protect their drinking water. Mainly, these communities are in outstate Minnesota. You made the promise, Republicans, you made the promise that you would be better for outstate Minnesota. But this is just another example of big promises and not follow through. Representative Gunther, when this bill was on the floor, we added an amendment that provided money for the Department of Health to help 20 communities do source water protection plans. That is to figure out how to protect their community drinking water wells. And that was money that we had found on the bottom line that had been returned from another project. But there are 380 communities that don't have these plans. Mainly, as I said before, they're in outstate Minnesota. So if we look at what we did in the amendment, which was provide money for 20 for the Department of Health to work with those communities to figure out what needs to be done to protect their drinking water wells, if we follow this 20 a year, it's going to be, or 20 biennium, it's going to be until 2056 before the job is done. The even bigger problem is that once a community figures out what they need to do to protect their drinking water, then there's actually the challenge of protecting their drinking water. There are 960 communities in this state that have public drinking water systems. About 500 have plans to protect their drinking water. But, okay, when they figured out those plans, they came up with a number of 407,000 acres of land that's around the drinking water wells that need to be protected. But right now, only 9,900 have been done. We know that there's money that may come in CREP that would protect 5,000 acres. So that means that there are 392,000 acres that still need to be protected. And remember, I'm only talking about the ones that are highly vulnerable. I'm not talking about the ones that are moderately vulnerable. So if you add up all the money in this bill, and I put every dollar in that I could find, this bill provides that 1,100 acres of land around community drinking water wells could be purchased in this biennium. At this rate, it would take 708 years to protect the rest of the highly vulnerable drinking water acres. Minnesota right now we're coming up on spending $1 billion from the legacy on waters. And this is where we are with drinking water. 708 years to go to protect our drinking water sources. And I'm not even talking about protecting the Mississippi, which is the source water for 1 million Minnesotans. So Minnesotans are going to be asking, what? What's going on? It's a good question.
Representative Gunther.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Wagenius, I want to again thank you for your help in bringing these to my attention. I appreciate you finding that money. But in the final bill, we have $9,894,000 recommended by the Clean Water Council to cover those projects that we have. We have wellhead protection. We have the things that we talked about. Drinking water from the Department of Health. I think we have a lot more in our final version than we had when we talked about it last time. But we compromised and got the Senate's version, went up all the way the amount that they had it. And that's the thing that you told me that I had to look at it as a minimum standard, and that's what I did.
The member from Hennepin, Representative Wagenius.
I do see the money that's allocated to the Department of Health, but a lot of that is very targeted. Some of it's for drinking water contaminants of emerging concern programs. Some of it's for the well sealing cost share. Some of it's for the private well supply protection. Some of it's for the groundwater virus monitoring plan. I couldn't add those numbers in when we were looking at what money might be available to help outstate communities protect the areas around their drinking water wells. I put in every dime I could find here that might be available might be available. And remember, all I'm talking about here is places where plans have already been made and it's been identified that there are 407,000 acres that need to be protected. Once we do the rest of the plans, that number's going to go up. That number's going to go up. So I think it's, when Minnesotans ask, what in the world is going on where drinking water has been ignored, where we don't have outcomes for drinking water? That's going to be the question.
Representative Gunther.
Thank you. Representative Wagenius, we have more than $30 million in our bill to protect water. And when we took the $22 million for buffers out of the Clean Water Council came out with a bunch of recommendations that I did share with you, and we met every one of their recommendations. And we don't have any more money than people spend in sales tax. So that's what we had to work with.
The member from Hennepin, Representative Wagenius.
Well, thank you, Representative Gunther. I hear your frustration, but if we are going to depend on the Clean Water Council's recommendations, then the question needs to go to them. Why are they ignoring drinking water? Why are we in the position that plans for communities won't be completed until 2056 at the rate we're going, and that the actual protection of the drinking water wells won't happen for 700 and some years? Minnesotans going to ask, what is going on here? And it's a good question.
Further discussion. Representative Gunther.
I would like to ask for a roll call on this bill, please.
A roll call being requested, and seeing 15 hands, there will be a roll call. Representative Gunther. Member from Dakota, Representative Hansen.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Since there's going to be a roll call on this, I think we need to actually talk about why this should be sent back, and with the chance to fix it, because let's find out what exactly is going on with the Clean Water Fund and the $22 million. So I heard $22 million going for buffers, but it was my understanding that that $22 million was originally coming out of here is actually going to administrative costs for soil and water districts. So it's going to pens, papers, and pencils and gasoline to pay for the administrative costs. That's what originally was when it left the floor. But is it correct that then that was changed, so there were $5 million taken from that then will go to an earmark for appropriations up in northwestern Minnesota?
Are you asking the member to yield?
I would ask Representative Gunther to yield, yes.
He will yield. Representative Gunther.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Hansen, that's exactly right. The CREP area starts about the west side of the state, a little above middle, 57 counties, I believe, and it goes down all the way across the state to the east. But there's 9 good ag counties and many other counties that have to worry about buffers up north. So we did have an amendment to give $5 million for CREP in those areas that didn't have any help. So that was voted in conference committee, and what was the other question you asked?
Well, Mr. Speaker and Representative Gunther.
Representative Hansen.
So if you had $22 million that was to go to administrative cost for soil and water districts, and you took $5 million away from that, where does that $5 million go that would have been going to soil and water districts for administrative costs?
Representative Gunther.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That $5 million was, I believe, came from taxes last year, and taxes, I believe, are going to cover it this year. And as far as the $22 million, we have to fund that out of the Legacy Committee, or we'll be planning, and we can't ever fund it from there again.
Representative Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, the $22 million is not the riparian aid that's in the tax bill. The tax bill has money for riparian aid to go to the counties for administering the buffer law, but that's different than the $22 million that 2 years ago was taken from the Clean Water Fund, and 2 years ago we stood on this floor and mentioned that it's an inappropriate use of the Clean Water Fund. It's not supplanting, it's an inappropriate use to take clean water funds to protect, restore, and enhance rivers, lakes, and streams by providing it in $100,000 increments to each soil and water district. That was general fund money. So 2 years ago, the Republican House put in taking that $22 million and then saying the soil and water districts that all of us have in our area would then have to cover it out of the general fund would cover it in the tails. But that was not the case this year. It came again for the $22 million. So by my count, you're short $5 million to soil and water districts. You're covering $5 million in the tax bill for the counties, but that's different than the administrative costs. So you have $17 million of inappropriate expenditure that's unconstitutional, and that's why this bill should be sent back.
The member from Roseau, Representative Fabian.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And members, if you look at the bill on page 55, on line 55.16, it says that there's $11 million for the first year and $11 million for the second year. That's the $22 million that's in the bill. Thank you.
Further discussion. Member from Dakota, Representative Hansen.
And Mr. Speaker, if Representative Fabian would yield.
He will yield. Representative Hansen.
So Representative Fabian, where did the $5 million come from then? Did that come off the bottom line for the CREP in your area, or the quasi-CREP in your area?
Representative Fabian.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And then if you look, I believe on page 51 in the bill, there's 4.875. I'm sorry, Representative Hansen, I'm kind of familiar with the conversation. I'm not on this bill, but there's two separate appropriations in the bill that I'm aware of. And page 55, it talks about the Board of Water and Soil Resources, 4.875 million the first year and 4.875 the second year. And that's a pilot program to provide performance-based grants to local governments. And I believe that this is the one down below. Then there's 6 million there, 6.88, and 12 point. There's where the money comes from, is in that 6 and 12 appropriation. Okay. Thank you.
Representative Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and that's helpful because it does appear that there's some shifting and moving around here, but it still has the 11 million on page 55. Each soil and water district shall receive an increase in its base funding. So, members, this is an unconstitutional use, just as it was 2 years ago, an inappropriate use of the funds, and so I would encourage a red vote on adoption.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, a roll call being requested, the clerk will take the roll on the motion to adopt the Conference Committee report on House File 707. Pat. Clerk will close the roll. There being 88 ayes and 45 nays, the motion prevails. Clerk will give the bill its third reading as amended by conference.
Third reading, House File Number 707, as amended by conference.
Third reading. Further discussion? The member from Ramsey, Representative Lilly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That was interesting. I personally think this bill is a good bill. I think Chair Gunther put together a good package with the Senate. Certainly there's things that were not quite perfect. I brought a friend with here. I don't know if you can see, I brought back the Blue Earth County hired a special lobbyist again, so they're spending big money to help out. But you know, the Lessard-Sams part of the bill, I'm honored to serve on that committee, and there's a lot of great projects that were done around the state, and I think they're good, and I think the bill was cleaned up quite a bit through the effort of the conferees and others and discussions. So that area was kind of put back together. The arts certainly is a lot of good projects around the state. I don't know if you get a chance, when we get out of here, take a look at the and the history, some of the different projects that'll be done around the states and in the trails and arts and history. The clean water area was tricky, and a lot of us, were concerned about some of the changes that were made. The Clean Water Council came out with some recommendations. The governor made some changes. You folks made some changes, but I think at the end of the day, it's, to my understanding, is they worked with the Clean Water Council groups, and that was interesting. I'm not necessarily against the changes myself that they made in the end with helping Representative Fabian. Every once in a while we get to learn something around here. If we have conversations with each other. And one of them was I was sitting with Fabian, and he told me about his district, and he was saying I'm going off track here, but it was in his county, for example. He has a bunch of counties up there that he represents, and I'm just in 2 counties down here, but he's got 1,200 miles of ditches in one county. I don't know, I look around here and some of us have smaller counties that we represent or smaller districts, and to me that alone, so that's why he wanted to move some of that money. A lot of that was going down into the southern Minnesota for buffer work in the 50 or some counties that affected, but none of it made it up north where maybe Representative Lean and Marquardt and Fabian, and so that money can go around the state, and that's kind of the story of this bill. It goes around the state, helping on all sorts of different things. So I think Representative Gunther put together a good effort. He was very respectful to our team. There's a lot of neat projects in there that helped a lot of different people, veterans, Barn and Woodbury, just on and on. You could go on and on. Please take a look at it. I do appreciate how respectful he was to our side of the aisle. And I think he did try to work with the water groups and the environment, but I've gone on too long here. But the staff really helps a lot, and hopefully he'll thank Callie and your team and ours on Nancy and the team, but the nonpartisan staff were very strong. And please take a look at this bill. I think there's a lot of good stuff in it.
The member from Blue Earth, Representative Considine.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think in this particular case, I can speak for Representative Cornish and Representative Johnson and say that's not Blue Earth County that you're talking about. That's the city of Blue Earth. The 3 of us represent Blue Earth County. I would like to thank Representative Gunther for the money for the Children's Museum and the St. Peter Pavilion. Thank you.
Member from Brown, Representative Torkelson.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair and members. And Chair Gunther has been kind enough to allow me to do some work on the clean water portion of this bill, and I thank him for the privilege of working on it. But I would especially like to thank the Clean Water Council for the work they do. We've made quite a few changes in their recommendations, but they have been very helpful in guiding me through some of those changes, and I really do appreciate the work that they do. Water in Minnesota is, of course, a very broad, dynamic topic that's very challenging to work with. It affects all of us in all of our lives, affects the environment of the state, and while there's a lot of money here, the issues are gigantic, and they come in once a month and spend hours listening to presentations and discussing what the options are for these funds. And I just want to once again reiterate my personal thanks for the work they do, and look forward to working with them in the future. Thank you, members. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Any further discussion? Member from Dakota, Representative Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would Representative Fabian yield for a question?
He will yield. Representative Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Representative Fabian, I actually agree that the $5 million is an appropriate use because it would be going to actual practices. But the question I have with that $5 million is if it is for ditches, and the law has been since 1977 on a redetermination of benefit or a cleanout that the benefited area needed to put in the buffer already. How will this work? Is this, because this is a question on, and I know some people may find this very esoteric, but we're dealing with constitutional funds and whether they are appropriately used. So, Representative Fabian, if there is a ditch that is in a benefited area, so all the landowners who are benefiting from that drainage, and they have done either a redetermination or a cleanout under the 1977 law, and they have a buffer or they didn't put in that buffer, the buffer's not maintained, do they then receive some of the money? Because this is a question of supplanting, and is it still a responsibility of the landowners in the benefited area to put in that buffer, to pay for that buffer?
Representative Fabian.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Hansen, I'm not familiar with, you may not believe this, but I'm not familiar with all of the details involved in where the money comes from and how it's spent with regards to implementing buffers and the redetermination of benefits. There's a lot of people in this building that know more about that than I do. I do know that there are a variety of sources of money that are used for the implementation after a redetermination. I think one of the problems that exists out there is that in many cases, in some cases anyway, the redetermination has not taken place yet. So where those lines cross between a redetermination having been done and one not being done, but yet still buffers are being installed or maybe not, that might be a good question to ask an SWCD person up north.
Representative Hansen.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Representative Fabian, that's my next question, if you would yield.
He will yield.
So if the SWCD people don't get their funding, then they may not be able to answer that question. So my question is, in the bill that we're going to hear next, and I haven't had that much time to see about the changes, but the $22 million that is in general fund there is one time only, or is it ongoing funding that would go to the soil and water districts, the money that is now being, so the $22 million that's here is one time, but is there ongoing general fund replacement for the $22 million in the out years?
Representative Fabian.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Hansen, I did not have a target in the tails to be able to get that done. So it's my understanding that the money that was appropriated 2 years ago, roughly the $20 million, was not in the tails anywhere either. And as a legislature, we came together to find the money for the SWCDs. We recognize the valuable work that they do. As we all know here, members, there's a tremendous demand for states' fiscal resources to provide for a whole host of things. And that's what we do, is we come down here and we try to come together to find out solutions. And like I told my wife when I was with her, I don't even remember when it was now, but I said, you know, hon, we've got a $46 billion budget that we're working with here, and we could be spending 55 or 56 billion, and there would still be somebody who doesn't have enough, you know, and I understand all of that. I really, really do. And I think what the SWC, I know what the SWCDs do in our local area is valuable stuff. A lot of people benefit a lot. They seek out help and advice from them. And I'm committed in the future to finding the money that we need to fund them. I know it's a source of frustration for them, but as we all know, does anybody have anybody in their constituency that's not frustrated? I certainly do. So I'm happy to work with you, Representative Hansen.
Representative Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Representative Fabian, I understand that issue about priorities. The issue that we have to choose as members is it constitutional? Is it an appropriate use? So I think if we had money that was $22 million in the general fund for soil and water districts, and now it isn't and it's being covered here, that would be substitution. That would be a clear substitution that's probably prohibited. I want to follow up on Representative Lilly because there are good reasons to vote in this bill. I think many of the changes that were proposed in outdoor heritage have been removed. There's money for the parks. There's money for arts and history. So a number of folks who may have wanted this fixed, when you get to the actual vote, there are issues here. And one of the issues you have to decide is this constitutional use. The other is we have a lot of funding dollars that are here for a variety of programs that people do meet the constitutional requirement. I do have one more question for the author of the bill, Representative Gunther.
He will yield.
Mr. Speaker, Representative Gunther, on page 42, on line 42.21, it has a subdivision on disability access. And it says, where appropriate, grant recipients of clean water funds in consultation with the Council of Disability and other governor-appointed councils, boards, commissions, shall make progress toward providing greater access to people with disabilities related to programs, the recipient funds using these appropriations. And I looked, and maybe I just couldn't find it. I looked in the outdoor heritage. I could find no similar provision. I looked in the parks and the arts, and maybe it's there. Maybe I just haven't had enough time to look for it. But I mean, I think that's a very important piece for the people's money to make sure that people with disabilities have access. And could you tell me, is this somewhere in the outdoor heritage or in the parks or in the arts and history provision? And if it is not, why it is not?
Representative Gunther.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Hansen, that's simply a governor's recommendation, and we followed it because we thought it made a lot of sense and it's a good thing to do.
Representative Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So it is only in the clean water portion. It's not in outdoor heritage. It's not in the parks. It's not in arts and history.
Are you asking the member to yield?
If Representative Gunther would yield.
He will yield. Representative Gunther.
Yes, that's fact. It's in the clean water portion only.
Representative Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And members, I think we have some work to do in the future on this issue. And we're in year, 8 or 9 here of this. And I think this is some rider language that needs to be included in the future. Members, this bill and the bill that follows it, and potentially the bonding bill and the LCCMR bill are all interlocking. They all have pieces of funding. And as we move towards adjournment, how these pieces come together for covering different items is really important. I will give credit to where credit's due. It is certainly creative. in terms of how this all fits together. I'm not sure it's right. Actually, I don't think it's right, but it's creative. There have been a lot of changes. I am still going to vote no. I know not that many folks probably will vote no, but that no vote is based on constitutionality rather than whether or not everything is followed to the letter by the advisory councils. I think we swear to uphold, or we affirm to uphold, the Constitution, and there are provisions here that are not constitutional, and that merits the no.
The member from Washington, Representative Detmer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and also I'd like to thank Representative Gunther for the hard work you and your staff has done. I know through the Department of Administration there's some grants there that has helped programs for our veterans. I know through the Humanities Center, Veterans Voices programs that we have here, and also the Medal of Honor Memorial that's going to be built on the Capitol grounds here, and also Legionville and our Disabled Veterans Camp, some programs that these grants will help promote. So thank you so much.
Further discussion? Representative Gunther.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm sure we'll have a better chance with the clean water portion of the bill next time, because it's my understanding that Representative Wagenius was just appointed to that council, and we'll look forward for your input there. And members, this is as good a bill as I could come up with. I had a lot of help. Like I say, I had help from the administration. I had help from every one of these four councils, these four articles, and they didn't get all they wanted, and I didn't get all I wanted. I tried to be fair geographically and politically. I tried to make this the best bill I could, and all I got to say is please vote green.
There being no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll. Clerk will close the roll. There being 106 ayes and 28 nays, the bill is repassed as amended by conference and its title agreed to.